It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Thanks a lot for joining us. Very interesting week in the past week. Some positive news, some interesting news in the space of politics. We did hear from the IMF about Nigeria clearing its debts. It's brought up a lot of conversations about what that means. But I mean, the federal government will celebrate that, and we're hoping that that means good things going forward for Nigeria. The economy is struggling, like we all know, and any sort of positive news we can get from anywhere will be great. We also saw Mr. President visit Anambra State, and the state governor, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, did basically endorse Mr. President for the 2027 elections, which is still about 2 years away or less. And it's thrown up the conversation which everybody's been having for the last couple of weeks and months about all the defections that's happening and how the APC is slowly becoming, you know, the only party with any sort of base in the country. And that's what we're going to be talking about as we start the conversation today. I'm joined by Demola Olariwaju. Thanks for being here today. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, even though it's been a while. What's happening? What's happening?
I mean, I think it's the president, you know, being using the powers of his office to essentially try to play God, basically, over the polity. But it's unfortunate that even God doesn't operate that way. I mean, if you don't want to believe in God, God isn't going to force you to be on his side, you know. But the president seems to want everyone to be in the APC, and I think that's a very big problem for him politically, which I hope that, you know, he recognizes, or for the sake of Nigerians, I hope that he doesn't recognize, but it's definitely a very big problem on his part. But it's really the president using the powers of the presidency within the system to try and bring all politicians into APC, but that has never worked. I don't think it's a working
So just to get you clear, because a lot of people are saying that Nigerian politicians will go wherever, you know, the food is at the moment. So the perception for a lot of people has been, it's been voluntary by these people to want to go to where, you know, the bread is being buttered at the moment. But you were saying that this is a deliberate move by the president. How's that happening?
I believe it's very deliberate because, look, you start from Rivers, for example. You know, you look at the Fubara, you look at the Wike, you see the president. I mean, the very idea of the president having a Wike in his cabinet, you know, where there are more qualified APC members, but because there's a political alliance between himself and Wike, you know, he brings the man in, even though the man is from what is supposed to be an opposition party. So it's clearly the president. And then you look at a lot of those politicians who are defecting. There's usually, it starts with an EFCC allegation, you know, or an EFCC invitation or a probe, and then the next thing that happens is the politician is defecting to the APC. I think the president is quite aware of the fact that a lot of Nigerians are not happy with his government, and you know, he's trying to bring all the politicians into APC, regardless of whether these politicians are strange bedfellows. And I think, you know, it's a move that will backfire eventually. I think, you know, the dreams of a one-party state, I don't think is going to be realistic in Nigeria.
But we've said a lot of things were not realistic in Nigeria, and over the years, we found out many things are possible here. And we've seen it happening in a lot of African countries, even in countries outside the continent. So what's to say that that's not a brilliant move on his part?
So you look at the people he's bringing in. If we're going to break it down, in Lagos, for example, it's understandable that he wants to keep the Sanwo-Olu base on side, but also keep the Obasa base on side. But you look at a state like Kano and wonder how he's going to balance it between Kakwanso and Ganduje. And then the governor, you know, you have Ganduje with you as your APC chairman, and now you're trying to bring in Kwakwanso. Ganduje is definitely not going to be happy with that. In Delta, you know, you look at the fact that Okowa, the sitting governor, and all the others are now in the APC. But you look at those who have been APC members, the likes of the former DSP, Omo Agege, the likes of Festus Kiyamo, they are definitely not going to be happy with that. So I think what the president keeps on trying to do is to create this marriage of strange bedfellows. But they are called strange bedfellows for a reason. It's that they can't simply not operate together. You pick one, you lose the other. So I think, you know, that's what's going on. I don't think it's a very smart move on his part, you know, trying to bring everyone. At the end of the day, it's definitely going to backfire. Another thing I would like to, that I think, you know, is responsible for the moves is that the president has started politicking quite early because, like I said, he looks at it and feels, well, I'm not delivering in terms of government. I might as well try to politic my way out of this. But he's also reacting to, you know, talk within the polity of an opposition coalition. So, you know, and basically the opposition has nothing else to do except politic. But you are the president, you are the sitting president. Your best politicking is done with government policy. If the lives of the people are better, everyone will be singing second term for Bola Tinubu. But if the lives of the people are not better, then you resort to what he's trying to do, which is railroad all the politicians into APC and hope to have his way in 2027.
I mean, a lot of people are singing second term for Bola Tinubu. Whatever their reasons are, we don't know. Now, just to push back a bit, the Wike situation, is it really on the president or on Wike, and how things played out with the PDP at the last election season? You know, with regards to whether Atiku Abubakar won the ticket and whether they wanted a certain person to leave the chairmanship because they didn't want two Northerners as presidential candidates and the chairman of the party. Is that on the president if this guy had issues with the PDP and decided to walk and align where he wants to? Well, so isn't that also possible that a lot of that is also what's happening?
Well, I think it speaks a lot about the personality of Nyesom Wike himself, which, you know, I mean, he's known to be who he is, you know. So that's about Wike. It speaks a lot about him. But then there's also the angle of the president himself willing to work with someone like that and appointing him a high-ranking member.
Yeah, most people will do that
within his ministerial. So where you've had that before in the past, especially under the Obasanjo government, there was an official partnership between the government and then the opposition. You know, the idea was, let's have a government of national unity so we don't give room for a military coup, because it was the first democratic experiment at that time. But ever since that time, people would resign. You know, one of the people that just left from Kebbi, for example, he was in the AMPP at that time when he was appointed FCT minister, but then he resigned his membership of the AMPP and became a part of the PDP. So, but when you have someone like Wike, which again speaks definitely to the fact that the PDP is failing as an opposition party, and that's why many people are looking forward to the opposition coalition, that look, can we find a political party that will provide an opposition to the Bola Tinubu regime? Because clearly PDP and so many other parties have been infiltrated and are failing, because you have Wike as a member of the PDP openly saying that he is going to campaign for a Bola Tinubu second term. That's clearly against the principles of opposition, but I think, you know, it also speaks to the character of the president, that even against his own party. I mean, APC members in Rivers State are clearly not happy with the fact that Nyesom Wike controls everything that comes from that state. You know, you had the likes of Tonye Cole, you had the likes of many APC members are clearly not happy, and they are definitely going to work or tend towards the opposition coalition, which is why I feel that, you know, it's not the best political move. Sometimes you want to have a clear idea of who your opponent is and who's on your side.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Mr. President, a lot of people are saying that this is him doing his machinations or whatever you want to call it. But when you talk to a lot of members of the APC, they tend to bring up President Obasanjo a lot. And in his time, it may not have been this blatant, but there were talks about how the EFCC and the ICPC were formed at the time, how he tried to capture the Southwest and almost completely, you know, did that. And, you know, talks about how he used his powers as well to try to make the PDP what the APC is today. But the one thing that stood out for a lot of people were that the governors and a lot of people in the opposition still tried to an extent to fight and stand up. That isn't happening now. So as much as we want to blame or, you know, talk about Mr. President, why are these people falling so quickly, so fast, so easily?
I think it's a sad commentary on most of the governors, the fact that the governors of this class do not exactly have the kind of spine that the governors of 1999 to 2007 had. But then again, you know, in terms of looking at the polity, as at the time that Obasanjo did a lot of those things, he did those things, the constitution was not exactly clear. I mean, these were people who were sworn in on May 29, 1999, without having read the constitution. So nobody came into office knowing exactly what the constitution said. A lot of the things Obasanjo did were experimental, you know, such as, you know, the imposition of a military administrator, the dissolution of the state democratic structure. And by the time they went to court, the court said, look, this is not the meaning of what the constitution says. You don't have the power to dissolve or to suspend a governor. So Bola Tinubu doing that now, after the courts have made that clear, that's why it appears illegal to so many of us. In Rivers State, for example, Obasanjo did it with so many states, but you know, interpretations were got, and, you know, so a lot of things became clearer in democracy. For it to still be happening after 2 decades of experiment with democracy, I think, you know, it says a lot about the quality of leadership that APC is producing for Nigeria.
Let's talk about the PDP. And, you know, the party that was touted to be the biggest in the continent at some point, and how they were going to be in power for God knows how many years, and what it has become now. I mean, a lot of people would say this started off with the way things played out, like I said, in the last election cycle, and it hasn't come back since then. Do you think the PDP is done?
Well, that's it.
Because I mean, a lot of the heavyweights are out of the way.
Well,
the ones who are still there seem to be working, you know, against the party. A lot of the leaders, we see tweets once in a while, but the pushback isn't what
it's not.
People expect.
It's clearly not what it is, and I think, you know, first of all, it's the fact that to have an opposition party, you need a certain kind of desperation. You need a certain kind of hunger. You need a certain kind of being in tune with the feelings of the people. Okay, and then politically, of course, yes, you need that kind of anger against the status quo, against the establishment. An opposition party is usually more purpose-built. Okay, so we come together and say we definitely want to build an opposition party that will oppose this government. What you have with the PDP is a party that was in power for 16 years, now trying to transform itself into becoming an opposition party. It's very difficult. The mindset shift is very difficult. A lot of people have spoken about how, you know, El Rufai has been showing more fire these days. He's clearly angry. He's clearly upset. There's a passion in him. You can't see that passion in PDP because PDP, you know, the system is essentially made to be a ruling party. So there needs to be a lot of tweaking. I think, you know, as to whether PDP is done, I think there's still a lot there to fight for. I think that, you know, the leadership of the party has to resolve the internal contradiction. You cannot have a Nyesom Wike serving as minister and still claiming to be a member of the PDP. You cannot have PDP governors openly coming out to say that they are going to work for the opposition. So PDP needs to resolve.
Why can't they suspend him?
Exactly. That's
the
question. I mean, that is where party discipline should come in. Let's even forget what happened in 2023. You know, that you worked against the party. Let's say, okay, can we all agree that whoever we pick next in 2027, this person is not doing well enough for Nigerians. We are going to, you know, put up our best fight against him. But instead, you know, the party is acting like a satellite party for the APC, which is an unfortunate situation. But I think that, you know, there will be politicians who will definitely be in opposition to Bola Tinubu, and I think that those politicians are looking at the you know, polity right now, looking at PDP, looking at Labour Party, and saying, look, we need to find a party that is purpose-built for opposition. And I think that, you know, when the time is right, we'll see that opposition coalition.
Who's the leader of the PDP now, do you think? Does the PDP have a leader?
So, well, I mean, there are different groups. There's a lot of PDP members who believe that they want to be in opposition to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Those are, you could say, those are led by Atiku Abubakar, who I think, you know, is doing quite well as an opposition leader within that space. And then there are PDP members who want to be aligned clearly with the government of the day, which is Nyesom Wike. So in a way, you could say that the real PDP that should be the opposition is led by Atiku Abubakar. But then there's also a PDP that wants to be, you know, a lucky party, so to speak, or a satellite party for the APC, and that's led by Nyesom Wike.
Yeah. The other main opposition would be the Labour Party in this case as well. But even they have their own, the drama that's going on there with the leadership. There's a faction, there's a leader today, tomorrow we're hearing he's in court, he's out. It's very confusing. What's also happening there, and these were the two major parties that gave the APC a fight, at least in the last election.
Well, combined, I mean, look, a lot of us looked at the numbers in the last election and felt that Bola Ahmed Tinubu managed only 36.6% of the votes, which is clearly a minority. It's not an absolute majority. Of course, it was the largest single vote share, but it's a minority. More people wanted the APC out than those who wanted the APC in. His Excellency Atiku Abubakar had 6.98 million votes. His Excellency Peter Obi had 6.1 million votes. That's clearly more than what Bola Tinubu had. And so most people look at it and say, look, why don't you guys combine forces against the next election? And you know, a lot of us would like to see that happen. We'd like to see that coalition happen. I believe that, you know, there are talks going on. And I think that if that happens, you know, Nigeria will definitely see a semblance of clear opposition. The Labour Party is clearly in trouble. The PDP is clearly in trouble. There has to be a vehicle that has to be found. But for now, you know, because of the way the last election played out, I think for me, even those party platforms may not be exactly what Nigerians should focus on. I think we should prefer to focus on individuals and know that, look, even if two people will abandon opposition, then we should expect that one of them definitely is Atiku Abubakar and the other is definitely Peter Obi, that these guys would always be in opposition. So wherever they say the opposition should coalesce, I think that's where we would be eventually.
What does this vehicle look like, though? Because do they coalesce into one of these two, or is a new movement supposed to be formed? Because like you mentioned, Malam Nasir El-Rufai as well seems to be leading one other part of things. He's left the APC. He hasn't joined any of the two. There's a number of politicians as well who are mumbling and grumbling and talking about this coalition. Are they coming into an already established party? Are the brands already tainted? Do we get a brand new one again? And how much time do they have? Because like we know, elections at least 2-3 years in Nigeria. Yes. You have to start the groundwork, and we're about less than 2 years away from the way things look now.
I think you know, one of the things that his supporters say is that, you know, Bola Tinubu is a master strategist or is a master tactician, but we never see that, you know, in terms of actual governance. But in terms of politics, I think the politicians also understand who they are dealing with, that this is a man who wants power for power's sake, and you know, they have to be smart about it. So I think a lot of things are being kept flexible for now, in terms of what the final destination will be, and because, you know, they are not sure exactly where it's going to come from, that's why you see the president trying to poach as many members as possible, as many people from the opposition. So I think they are keeping things a bit flexible. What I would say is, at the end of the day, look, we could have a repeat of the 1999 situation. Remember, in 1999, Olufalaye was a member of the Alliance for Democracy, and the candidate of the APP was Umaru Shinkafi, and eventually Olufalaye resigned his membership of the AD, joined the APP, and then picked an APP running mate. So I wouldn't be surprised if until the last minute, you even have two frontline opposition candidates, you know, which splits the forces of the president. They are attacking different people, and then eventually you have a coalition. So, for example, we might say in Osun State we are supporting, you know, the incumbent governor on the PDP platform, but in a state like Anambra, for example, we are supporting Charles Soludo. But of course, Charles Soludo has now declared this other way. So there's going to be that flexibility, okay? I think there's going to be that flexibility, and we have to be ready for it in terms of the polity, because of the personality of who we are playing with, which again, I don't attach much relevance to, because if you are fighting so hard for power, then, like I said in the beginning, the best campaign for any incumbent government is your performance. If you perform well for the people, then the people will say, get a second term on the platter of gold. But we are not seeing that. What we are seeing instead is a master strategist. Please, can you master strategize the economy and make petroleum cheaper for me?
Very quickly, is there any fairness to the criticism some heavyweights who are supposed to be in opposition are getting about how maybe quiet they have been? We hear about President Goodluck Jonathan. We've heard about, you know, former Senate President Bukola Saraki, who are not necessarily pro this government, but are maybe not as vocal as people expect them to. Is that a fair judgment?
Well, I don't think it's a fair judgment, to be honest. I think there's a quote that comes to mind by George Bernard Shaw, where he said, lamenting the times without doing anything about them is a cheap show of wisdom. These are your times, and fighting the battles, righting the wrongs are a part of your battles. I think people need to step up for themselves. Let's not wait for, oh, Goodluck Jonathan hasn't spoken, this person hasn't spoken. Nigerians need to speak more about their anger and speak more. They might not be in the position of those people, or we might expect them to speak. But, you know, for whatever reason, I mean, it's politics. There's no, I mean, you have been there, you're living. It's okay if you don't want to comment, if you don't want to engage with the system. But we should focus instead on what, you know, the likes of Atiku Abubakar, the likes of Peter Obi are doing in terms of opposition, which I think, you know, they are doing quite well.
Well, one thing is for sure, the next year plus is going to be very interesting, and we'll see how things play out. Thank you very much, Demola, for being here today, for giving us some clarity. I will see how things play out in the future. We're going to take a quick break, and now we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Well, if you're a fan of Nollywood, you definitely know my next guest. He's the face a lot of us know. I mean, Nigerians are fans of Nollywood, which is why it's one of the biggest movie industries around the world. And he's paid his dues over time, but as a filmmaker, an actor, and everything around that. I'm joined now by Muyiwa Ademola. Thanks a lot for being here today, sir.
You're most welcome, sir. Good afternoon.
It's our pleasure. How's it going? I can see a name on your shirt, and I think a lot of us came to know you for the first time by that movie, Ori.
Oh, well. Yes,
how was it back then? What made you want to tell that story at the time, before we get to this now?
Well, then, that was 22 years ago.
Yes.
And sincerely speaking, I cannot really say this was the reason why I shot the movie then. But now, I can say why.
You have more clarity on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I have to, you know, reshoot the movie.
Yeah.
Like I keep telling people, you know, for over 20 years, Ori as a movie is just one film that whenever I step out of my house, people always talk about it.
Yeah.
They will always, tell me, when you want to shoot the movie, remake the movie, do something about the film. And, at the point I was thinking about, making it into a novel. But, 20 years after, the movie was shot 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
I decided to reshoot the film because
Okay.
Ori is just a very heavy concept.
Yeah.
So heavy.
We'll come back to Ori at the end of this
All right.
and the rebirth of Ori and all of that. But you talked about, the reactions you get for the original one. And I wonder, do you feel like Nollywood still has that feeling, evokes that feeling from people? Because there's this talk about, when Nollywood was Nollywood, old Nollywood, Do you think people still get that feeling that we got from 20-something years ago from all these movies?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think Ori Rebirth is actually redefining that. That's what people feel. Like, okay, you don't feel all those, things we feel then. And it's the truth. But if you have seen, the reviews from Ori Rebirth, people have been going to the cinema houses to cry, to pray, to do, sort of things, and send me messages and all that. I am still telling you that we still have it, original stories. And that is one of our strengths.
That's why the industry became what it became.
Yes.
Very
And
true.
we must, most times I tell my people, let's stay at that originality. Let's tell our stories in our own way, that authentic way, just like my name, and that's what I've done with Ori Rebirth.
Yeah. Before we move on, I mean, you talked about, the originality there, and I just wanted to touch on the AMVCAs, which held last night, the African Magic Viewers' Choice Awards. And, it tries to reward originality and, help filmmakers, be celebrated. I don't know if you were part of the event or you watched. What did you think of it and some of the winners?
Oh, of course. It's it's quite amazing, and it's becoming more interesting. And I must tell you that AMVCA has helped to actually,
elevate
up the game. Yes, everybody wants to put their productions there, let their project go there and be rewarded. And it's amazing to see my brothers, my friends, my colleagues in the industry, people like Femi Adebayo, Lateef Adedimeji, and a whole lot of them, Akim, Akim was on Ori as well as the makeup artist, and I mean, he won. He has been winning back to back for like 7 years now. So a whole lot of them won. Messi Aigbe. It's amazing. It's amazing. And, as a filmmaker, then you begin to feel like, I think I want to be there too.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful.
I mean, you've been in this industry for quite a while now, and we've seen all the evolutions of, from the home video era to DVDs, and then, of course, cinemas came in, and then streaming came in. Now the streaming platforms are a little shaky. All of a sudden, YouTube is now the platform, And, of course, generations have changed. The Gen Zs control entertainment now, consumption, whether we like it or not. They are the ones who are the largest number of population in the country.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know what your reaction or what you get from young people, whether it's the actors or those who just consume. And this YouTube effect that has become the norm now, what your thoughts are on that?
You see, the Gen Zs, we have to do something that is appealing to them. And I remember when I was talking to people about Ori, that I want a rebirth. So people feel, would the Gen Zs understand it? Will they love it? And I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. And they are in love. I mean, already, I started seeing 17, 18, 19-year-old, boys and girls weeping, sending me messages about the film. So that means they can key into all those topics and concepts we think are too huge for them to understand. They can't key into it. And it's always like a metamorphosis, moving from one stage to another, from stage to TV. TV has always been there, though, from TV to VCD to DVD, streaming platforms. And, okay, YouTube is part of those streaming platforms as well. Different modalities, different ways of operations and all that. And our, darling Netflix and, Prime, they will still be around.
Yeah.
And a whole lot are still coming because we have that huge population in Nigeria, in the whole of Africa. We have people that can consume what we do. So we shouldn't be scared. It's just like, it can be shaky now. It's going to get better.
Yeah.
And it's fine. YouTube is doing very well.
Do you think YouTube is a sign of progress or regression? Because it looks like we're just trying to adapt to what's available now. Do you see it as progress?
Well, it can be both, depending on what we put there.
Sorry, we're just seeing shots of your... but go on.
Thank you. Sincerely speaking, it depends on what you put in there. It's like, garbage in, garbage out. If you put in something like, people are making a whole lot of money on YouTube. You have some people that say, okay, I'm telling you, I'm not coming to your cinema. Let me stay on YouTube. Let me just put my products there. And they are doing very well.
Yeah.
And some are putting things that are not too good, to see. And, well, they repeat. I think YouTube is cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Very well said. Where we are in industry now, the argument will always be, are we where we're supposed to be? Do you think we're at a point where do you really still call Nollywood a baby at this stage? Compared to other industries, yes, it is, but we've come quite a way. It's been almost 4 decades now since the movie industry, or the home video industry, like we knew it at the time, sort of started. We look at what's happening in the South Koreas, all of these places that we thought were smaller markets and how they've burst into the world. What should we be doing differently, if anything, to get that sort of recognition? We've tried a few times to submit at the Oscars. Nobody's saying we need their validation. But for the world to respect us on the level that we know we should be. Because the stories are there, like you said.
Yes.
So is it a technical problem? What needs to come to fix, this jigsaw puzzle?
You see, it's a very big industry. And I'm telling you, government needs to do better. Like Ori is a product of, sheer perseverance,
personal,
and it's a personal project. The producer,
and these are things that don't happen in any other place.
Yeah. But over there, you have your concept, put it together, put it out there, you get funding. But here it's so stressful. It's always like, I have to come to Ebuka has to take me to somebody, somebody has to go to another person, and most times work of arts, you don't get it doctored, you don't need that pressure to really put it out there. I think for us to be on that scale, like, those people that we've been there I've been around for over 35 years. You understand? And when I got there, I knew a whole lot of industry that were still babies. But now, they're up there. So we need something from the government. Government need to enable a lot of parastatals and agencies to be interested in the industry. We need funding, we need grants, we need more cinemas, big cities should have few more cinemas. We need a whole lot of community cinemas and things that can encourage people, to put their money into making films when they're so sure, the profit is coming. Here it's a whole lot of stress. Like, you can look at my face now. I can't remember the last time I closed my eyes. I'm telling you. So, we need a whole lot of process that will make this thing easier. Investors should come in. Government should encourage, enable, the environment, do more for the industry, and let investors come in.
Yeah. The economy has also affected a lot of this, let's be honest.
Yes.
Because you mentioned cinema there, and I know back in the day when the cinemas opened, you go with 500 naira, maybe with your student ID. They even give you free popcorn on top of
we
it.
still have that, though.
But now, if a young man wants to carry his girlfriend to the cinema now, he's talking of a budget that can make him soup at home. And he now thinks of his priority.
You can have a 20,000 naira. So.
We've seen, especially post-pandemic, we've seen a decline in, do you think it's an economy thing? Do you think young people are just not as into Nollywood as we were back in the day?
A whole lot of things, lots of process. Things are changing. Like, okay, during our days, the major means of entertainment has always been TV, stage drama.
Yeah,
and that's
you had to go somewhere to.
But now you can stay in your room, be with your phone and be entertained. You can be there from morning to night without even watching any film. There are a whole lot of, apps that, will make you laugh.
So you're not just competing with apps.
I'm telling you, it's a whole lot of a big process, and attention needs to be paid to the fact that things are changing.
Yeah.
What interests you and I then do not interest them now. So we just need to key into their process. We need to tap into their world. If we still want to stay there, we need to go into their world, take our own things. Like I keep telling people, okay, or we knock the doors of their heart, go in and talk to their soul. That is just it.
Yeah, a marketer too.
Because without doing that, they are the highest consumer.
Yes.
And if they don't touch what you do, that would be an issue.
Before we just wrap up with Ori Rebirth, you've been in the industry, like you said, over 30 years.
Over 35 years.
Over 35 years.
Yes.
What is the secret to that? Because you have a lot of people who want to do this. They come in, they see how hard it is. It's easy to give up, right? So what has kept you going? And, if a young person comes to meet you to say, okay, this is what I want to do for life.
Well, sincerely speaking, when we started, we weren't thinking about making profits. It's just like a natural gift deposited in us, and we just want the whole world to see that, okay, I have this gift. That was how we started. So, along the way, then it becomes, a business, and we have to make ends meet. I don't know if we can still say it, but if you are coming in, you need to think less of how much.
You have to love it.
Yes. Like I tell people, I love the job I do, and the job I do loves me. You need to come in and, you shouldn't begin to think about, okay, I want to bring this castle, I want to buy these cars, I want to be like a book, I want to wear clothes like Buka. You need to calm down, take one step at a time, because it will take a lot. There are challenges. Even on this movie, there are a lot of challenges, you understand? So for you to stay around 10 years, 20, 30, 35, you need to think,
and
take
think
things
long,
easy.
Not immediate. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's quickly wrap up now with Ori the Rebirth. I can see the cast on your chest, for example.
Yes.
You remade a movie that's over 20 years old, I believe.
Yes, 20. He's not 22 years old.
22 years old. So you have to modernize it. You have to make the storyline a little more relatable. How did that process go through, and why were these cast members your picks?
Well, thank you. Like I keep saying it, writing stories has been my major gift, and so it's so easy for me to walk around something I've done 22 years ago, interwoven it with this story, this new story, the old one, and people that have seen it. You hear the testimonies from them, and it's been so amazing. And of course, the cast: Chalachubo Ale, Toyin, Odun Adekola, Ibrahim Chata, Femi Adebayo, a whole lot of them, Lateef Adedimeji, Omawumi Dada, taking from this generation, the older generation, the generation after, and all that. And the story resonates with every living individual, even with every race. It's something everybody will believe. It's something everybody will key into. Yeah. And that's why, it's been very massive at the cinemas. The first day we did the advanced screening, it became the highest, gross, cinema. You understand, in advanced screening in the history of filmmaking in Nigeria, or cinema in Nigeria rather. So that should be a very good testimony of what I am talking about. People love it already. Yeah. People are watching it. They are consuming it.
Where can we see it?
Everywhere.
It's everywhere in cinema.
Everywhere. In fact, I'm leaving now, I'm going to ICM. Okay. And people should come to ICM to see me. It's everywhere, and people are watching it. Even non-speaking Yoruba people, because it's a well-subtitled production. So non-speaking Yoruba people are watching.
It's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
On a final note, before you go, as quickly as you can, I just want to know what you feel about the future of Nollywood. Like I said, the cinemas are not as affordable for a lot of people anymore. Maybe it's the economy. Streaming platforms are pulling back funding. Like you said, we don't have those big studios that fund projects. So the money coming in, are you worried?
I am worried. I'm worried, one, I think stylishly, if you are not careful, we'll lose our originality. And we cannot tell Hollywood stories in Nollywood, because Hollywood are not telling Nollywood stories in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Bollywood are not telling Nollywood story, neither are they telling Hollywood stories. So let's tell our stories. Let's maintain that originality. I think that will attract more people. You know, during our days, there are so many things a movie will do for you. It will educate you, it will enlighten you, it will, you know, change the way you perceive a whole lot of things. But now it's all about entertainment. But it's more than that. If you go back to that, we attract more investors, and boom, we'll keep going. But if not, it's shaky.
Thank you very much, Muyiwa Demola. Nollywood has gone through turbulent times and they've survived. So I believe we'll get through this and come out the better for it.
Yeah, because
and like you said, Rebirth is in cinemas across the country, so make sure you check it out and support Nollywood and enjoy the best of filmmaking as well while you're doing that. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much.
We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. The Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards held last night, the 11th edition, and it was quite a show. Great winners all around. Congratulations to all those who won. But the one thing that has become synonymous with the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards is the fashion. In fact, some people even talk about it more than some of the winners on the day. We're going to be exploring that and all of the red carpet drama that happened yesterday. I'm joined here by Latasha Ongube, our resident, I feel like a Nigeria's resident, what's the word now, authority.
Well,
because I saw some of your Instagram stories yesterday. You were giving live updates.
Take it. And you looked amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
You actually looked very nice.
I wanted to start off with that because a lot of people have started associating the AMVCAs. I don't know what the theme. I don't know whether it's because the Met Gala happens just before it.
Listen.
But there's a belief that wearing a black tuxedo, for example, is
boring
for what would be a movie night of class, you know? So, I mean, I saw some people say, hey, Buka, this is on our, like maybe they wanted a cape on top of the suit or whatever it was.
An eagle perhaps on the cape.
So what do you think of what it has become? Because there's also the counter-argument that Nigerians are flamboyant. So you can't restrict us to a black tie sort of dress code. Where do we find the balance then? Because you can't restrict us, to be fair.
Well, I hear everything and there are valid arguments in each pocket. But I will say, first of all, shout out to everybody. Shout out to the MVCA for putting together a stellar event for the last 11 years. I mean, this is...
Because it's tough.
It is very tough.
In Nigeria, it's even tougher.
It is very expensive. It's very time-consuming and very stressful. This is arguably the biggest awards ceremony on the continent, period.
Everybody looks forward to it. From like January.
Absolutely. You can't imagine how stressful it is for me as a fashion lover because the Met Gala is typically every first Monday in May. I'm born in May and my birthday is on the 8th. So this week there was the Met Gala, there was my birthday, there was AMVCA back to back to back, and I'm like, a lot is happening right now. Speaking to what you said about the simplicity, in quotes, of outfits, I can see how people will say Nigerians are flamboyant, this and that, but the truth of the matter is that there is always a place for classic dressing. There is a place for sophistication. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have a culture where seamstresses, tailors, designers are part and parcel of, you know, the fabric of our society and, you know, the way we dress and everything. And because we're very celebratory people, there's always something to wear. There's always somewhere to go, a dress in wedding, naming ceremony, death, this or that. So we have already blurred the lines when it comes to Asoebi, and you are part of the problem. From Banky W's wedding, you have been part of the problem.
That was a wedding.
Oh, it was a wedding. Now look at it. You have given birth.
They have taken it.
You have 1 decade later.
Let's get
look at it.
Let's get into it. But that's what I also tell people. The events and time matter.
Yes.
You know. But let's get into it now. Last night, who stood out for you?
So for a number of reasons, of course, first place in terms of standing out.
Okay, let's start with the worst. Or the people who stood out for you in that way.
Let me say stand out, because this is not the best, this is not the worst, just stand out.
There's
Nana Kwado, for me, stands out.
We have...
But this is worst dressed list, I think, and the first person on the worst dressed list for me would be Erica Nlewedim.
She had two outfits. I think this was the first one. What did you like about this?
Lerinari, I forget the name, I'm sorry for butchering. It's an international designer. I mean, it just looks like prom gone so wrong. I did not like this outfit. The dress did nothing for her. The gloves, the headpiece. I saw on the red carpet that when she was asked who styled her, she said she styled herself. It's evident. This was a time where she badly needed a stylist, and this was not well thought out.
But her
at
second
all.
outfit was...
Her second outfit was a much better recovery. I don't know whether it was a last-minute hookup with the designer. It was Wisdom Franklin, by the way. It was miles better than this, but this was not Wisdom at Wisdom Franklin best for me.
Okay.
I think it would have needed more cohesion. I don't think it was custom made for her. I think it was just like a last-minute pull, whatever. But that was not a good look for her. No.
What about for the guys? Who didn't impress you?
Sorry. The second person that was dressed was Papaya X. She came as a banana. I don't know what's going on there. It's a very fruity affair. There was bananas on the bust area. She was peeled out of it. She was holding a banana. It was bananas. It was bizarre. Very much so. The designer for this, I believe, was Extra Queen.
But you could tell she was going for shock factor.
I mean,
because she did a video where she was trying to eat the banana, and it was, you know.
I mean, again, this is supposed to be a very classy event. The problem here is that there's too many people going for shock factor at an event that requires a lot of like poise, grandiosity, you know, elegance, and an evening of celebration. And I fear that people are really beginning to, because I got a lot of people in my comments saying, oh, this is Met Gala worthy. Darlings, the Met Gala is a costume event.
And celebrities don't wear what they wear to the Met Gala, to the Oscars.
No, they do not. They certainly do not. Neither do they wear what they wear to the Grammys, to the Oscars. Either. There's a time and place, and you can see it in the red carpet. But let's move on to the guys for the worst dressed. I think.
Which of the guys gave you the shock?
I mean, we have Dame Desmond, Desmond Elliott.
I saw him on the red carpet.
How did he look on the red carpet?
So he called my name, and I turned, and I saw this because there were cameramen around, and then I looked. I was like, interesting.
Oh.
You know, I mean, I would never have expected it from him. I think he even had a hat as well. I mean, he's not just an entertainer, he's a politician. For him to want to pull this off was quite interesting to me.
Would you wear that?
No.
Okay. It was terrible. I thought it was terribly executed.
And he's a Nollywood legend.
He's a veteran by every... I love Desmond Elliott. He's actually a very good friend of mine. I wrote about the look. I was like, I could not understand what was going on. I don't know what that was about. But even if that's the direction you want to go, because I have seen men who can make this fashion. You know, there are people who can pull it off. You actually could pull it off. It just needs to be well executed. The shape of the skirt was terrible. There were lumps in the back. It looked like there was a corset. I'm confused. I'm not sure what's happening. Even when he posted, the way he posted it was like, ... I don't think he was convinced. So he didn't convince us. For sure.
And I know I think he hasn't been to the AMVCAs for a while. So it was like a comeback. You people must see me.
Now he
and I guess he got it. Let's look at some of the best dresses that stood out for you. Females.
Oh, I believe that I had a second worst dressed.
Okay, you had it. Oh, who was that?
White Money, Otamieme.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was bad. In fact, when I wrote about it, he actually DM'd me and said, God, I beg you. And we had a good laugh. Because I don't know him personally. And we had banter. Then he told me he ate.
Yes, that's it.
I said, honey, you ate meat pies and sausage rolls.
And I think he made his outfit himself. He did, or he designed it. He told me he designed it.
He said it was Igbo Scotsman. I'm like, I still don't get the reference. I don't know. Ebuka, by the way, was there a theme?
So, not that I know of. I don't know that there was a theme.
Why are people saying the theme was technology?
Oh no, I didn't get that.
Get it.
Let's go to the best dressed women, like we said. First, I think it was Anita.
Anita. Oh, Anita Uka. Anita Uka
Uka
looked lovely. She was wearing First Lady. Look at that outfit. This is clean.
Yes.
This is elegant. Look at her hair, the updo, the minimalism. But then there's still a little bit of drama. The colors.
Just the right amount of drama.
Just right. Perfect. She's not necessarily an active actress. She's a reality star. But this says, I know my place. I'm here to have a good time. I'm here to celebrate others. This was so award worthy. Loved it.
All right, let's see who's next. She looked really good. I actually saw her as well.
She looked good on the carpet as well.
And she's really tall.
She is very.
And she flowed very well.
I mean, you know what? You know the stuff.
This is Doing.
So Doing this had this Mother Earth thing going on. I believe the name of this designer is Mamadi Couture. I don't know if it's a Nigerian designer. Props for creativity. I mean, it really looked like roots were growing out of the dress. It looked like there was foliage going on. It was very creative. I liked her hair. it worked in its own way. I didn't see any visuals of her on the carpet to see how it really translated.
Yes, okay.
But from the image, it was not bad at all.
Do we have anyone next?
I think Osas Igodaro.
Okay, Osas
Osas
looks
looks good.
owns the AMVCA at this point.
You know
she
what?
and Nana, like, you know.
You know what? Osas in Vicky James.
This was stunning.
Very stunning. And she looked just as good in real life.
Yeah, it was stunning.
So this is the thing. There was a lot of what we saw versus what we were seeing in real life.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, discrepancies there. But this was nice.
Yeah.
I believe that the green bits of her dress were made from a towel. A dish towel.
Oh, interesting.
So quite creative.
She's collaborated with Vicky James for about 3 or 4 editions now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
and she's always been on the best dress list.
Yeah,
so
this was nice.
I guess they should stick together.
This was nice. Still a tad,
Dramatic.
but she's an actress.
She's won the award twice, I believe,
I
Best
think,
Actress.
yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
I guess she can get away with
Exactly.
with doing it. Who's next?
We have I think it will be the best dressed men.
Okay.
For me, there's a few of them actually. I think I even had more people on the women's best dresses, but for the guys, Micah Folarin for me.
Okay.
Micah Folarin. Okay, yes, we had
Jemima in person.
Jemima was lovely.
She looked like she was flowing.
Molded.
Oh, no. When I saw her,
It was beautiful. Very, very nice. I loved
She looked
her
like a movie
hair.
star.
She looked like a star.
Yeah.
Like a movie star. Look at her hair, the jewelry, the composure. I was not too in love with the train, I must be honest, because of the texture. I think the chiffon gathers. I don't love that technique so much, but you know what? For this, I will let it pass. She looked amazing to me.
Okay.
Very nice. Of course, Tony Tone.
Both looks were crazy.
Listen. I think one look was by Adeshokpe. I'm sorry. I've been up all night, so my mind is fuzzy, but she looked beautiful. I didn't understand why she had to wear 2 dresses though, because you're not nominated, you're not presenting. Did she present?
I don't think I remember.
Yes, she didn't present. She's not hosting the carpet. I don't understand the idea of 2 looks. I think it's just too much.
The AMVCAs.
No. See, this is the problem. This is where we're going into that territory again. One dress would have been sufficient for me, but she killed both.
Okay.
And I'm happy with that. She looked very, very nice.
Can we see the guys quickly?
Yeah.
You said Micah Folarin.
Micah Folarin. Mike was wearing, I don't want to say it was Deji Ankola if it wasn't Deji Ankola, but he looked...
Was it T.I. Nathan?
No,
Can't
I
remember.
don't think it was. Look at
But
him.
the right amount of accessories.
The right amount, I call it trinkets. The right amount of trinkets for him.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, it's not quite an award-worthy, like a movie award-worthy outfit. And I can understand that, but it's age appropriate for him. He's in his 20s.
I was going to say that as well.
The cornrows and everything. I can very much see one of the Jonas brothers wearing this. One of the younger Timothy Chalamet. I can definitely see them in this zone. I love Micah Folarin so much. He's so cool, so stylish, so chilled, very Ashake. There's a lot of Ashake going on in his looks. Very nice. Efaiwara in Atafo.
Stunning.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. I was like, Effa, yo.
You are rediscovering him.
This is a discovery. Do you understand? I'm like, okay.
Yes.
This is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked good.
And I'm all for people who wear a nice tuxedo to the awards. I've always been an advocate for that. Like in the past, I would probably have criticized Micah Folarin for not wearing a shirt and a bow tie. I would have never worn a long tie to AMVCAs before. But I've also seen that, people are doing things. You can be a little edgy.
A little.
Without going completely off.
Absolutely.
Which is why I really liked what Micah Folarin won. So I see your point. But Effa, it was not a regular tuxedo.
No, it was
cropped.
yes, it was more like a Matador jacket style. Bucci Franklin for me also. I mean, all the women in my DMs are swooning, married and single.
I thought he looked amazing, but I didn't think he looked appropriate.
I hear you.
But I thought he looked amazing. He's my guy.
But you know what?
When I saw the whole chest, I said,
you know what? I will chalk him up because Bucci Franklin, even as an actor, is not regular.
Yeah.
He's not someone you see all the time. So I'll give him that rogue face like a Robert Downey Jr. or like a Johnny Depp. You always have the outliers in the industry that just don't do regular. But this was not crazy looking. Neither was it like extra. Yeah. It was just personality. And I'm also for some bit of personality on the carpet.
I was a little conflicted with wearing a slim tie and what looked like a pinstripe suit. Why did you think it worked? Because you said you liked it. For me.
For you?
Yeah.
So the first thing I noticed, I was like, what is this print
Yeah.
on this outfit? I was like, it's Ebuka times Atafo. Please, what is going on there?
Collaboration.
Is this going to be, people are going to be wearing, they're going to sell
Coming
that?
soon.
Ebuka, wow. Look at you, fashion entrepreneur. About time.
Yeah.
So what I liked about your look was, first of all, it was completely different. My comment on it was, point of view is when your designer says, I'm making you your own suit.
Yeah.
You had your suit, your shirt, your tie, your name. I thought that gave me so much presence. Like, I am here, I am Ebuka. It actually spoke to your personality.
Yeah.
I'm like, if a designer was going to collaborate with a personality, this is what it should look like. I like the fact that you also went with a tie because you're very much a classic guy. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the look, and you've trimmed a bit. So I didn't want you in a white tie either. I needed that tie to stay
True.
skinny.
Yeah.
You know,
And
of course, I love my look.
Yeah. You wore velvet.
I
that
wore velvet. It was black velvet.
Velvet is very risky.
Velvet can be very risky, but
Yeah.
my designer first lady, she murdered it. She did.
Even if you say so yourself.
No. I don't need to say so myself. It is evident, and I want it to be. It was like a lesson
Yes.
in how to style
right.
for the carpet. But
Yeah.
I know we're out of time.
Yeah.
It was always. It's a
You're
pleasure.
you're always amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Looking forward
me.
to the next AMVCAs or the next
I
awards
know,
coming. And,
I know.
Thanks to all the attendees who did their best. I think this year
Indeed.
was actually a little better than the past with how crazy people went, but we don't have time. And of course, thank you for joining us. Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on social media. Please use the hashtag #RubbinMinds when you send us a message. I'll see you next Sunday. You want to fight me?
Yeah, with you. Don't just stand